The elevator doors glided open to reveal a stunning penthouse overlooking San Francisco Bay. Olivia Chen stepped cautiously onto gleaming marble floors, her modest library tote bag suddenly feeling out of place among custom furniture and priceless art. 3 days into her marriage and everything was about to change. "Welcome home, Mr. Voss," said the executive who had followed them into the elevator. "About the Singapore merger." "Tomorrow, James," her husband replied with quiet authority. The same voice that had discussed 19th century literature in her small-town library now commanded instant respect from a man in a $3,000 suit. Olivia's heart pounded as reality crashed around her. The mysterious Theo who stacked chairs after book club, who brought her coffee during morning shifts, who proposed on a moonlit beach, he wasn't just Theo. "I should have told you sooner," he said when they were alone, his expression vulnerable despite the luxurious backdrop. "My full name is Theodore Voss. I'm the founder and CEO of Horizon Technologies." The world tilted beneath Olivia's feet. Horizon Technologies, the company revolutionizing sustainable energy and artificial intelligence. The corporation worth billions. The name splashed across business magazines and tech blogs worldwide. She whispered, unable to complete the thought as her mind raced through every conversation, every shared moment, searching for clues she'd missed. "Still the same person who fell in love with how you talk about books like they're living things," he finished, reaching for her hand. Please believe that part was always real. The Bayview Public Library stood as an architectural afterthought, a 2-story brick building wedged between renovated harbor shops and municipal offices. Despite its weathered exterior, inside was a sanctuary of knowledge and imagination carefully cultivated by Olivia Chen, who had transformed budget constraints and outdated technology into a community haven. "Miss Chen, I finished the entire series." 10-year-old Zoe bounced excitedly at the circulation desk, her arms wrapped around a stack of fantasy novels that nearly reached her chin. "Already? That was quick." Olivia smiled, genuinely impressed as she scanned each returned book. "What did you think of the ending?" As Zoe launched into a detailed analysis, Olivia listened with complete attention, a quality that made her exceptional at her job but somehow invisible in her personal life. These moments with young readers reminded her why she stayed in Bayview despite everything. Children saw her, truly saw her, when most adults looked right through. "You're going to be a brilliant writer someday," Olivia told Zoe, recommending another series. "These might be even better than the last ones." The girl's eyes widened. "Really? I'll start tonight." At 2008, Olivia had built the library into something special. Weekly story hours for toddlers now drew 30 families instead of 3. The senior book club had doubled in size. Her grant-writing efforts had secured funding for 10 new computers and a digital catalog system. She'd created reading programs for underserved children and partnered with local schools to improve literacy rates. Yet none of these professional accomplishments seemed to matter in Bayview's social hierarchy. Here, she remained defined by a single personal failure, being left 3 years ago, weeks before her wedding. "Did you hear Natalie's pregnant again?" Mrs. Hoffman whispered loudly to another patron while Olivia shelved returns. Their second, and Blake just made partner at his law firm. Olivia's hands trembled slightly, but she continued methodically arranging books. This was her reality, existing as the town's favorite cautionary tale. A whispered warning about being too bookish, too serious, too insufficient. Her small apartment above the Harbor Cafe offered solace. There, surrounded by cherished novels and the rhythmic sound of waves, she could escape the weight of being poor Olivia. Her collection of first editions, carefully acquired from second-hand shops and library sales, felt like friends who never judged or pitied. Even her mother had internalized the town's narrative. "Have you thought about those dating apps I mentioned?" she'd ask during their Sunday calls. "Or maybe a cooking class. Men appreciate a woman who can make a good meal." "I'm fine, Mom," Olivia would respond, the practiced answer automatic. "The clock is ticking, Olivia. At your age, you can't be so choosy anymore." These conversations left her exhausted, reinforcing walls she'd built around herself. She'd created a life that was predictable, meaningful in its own quiet way, and, most importantly, safe from further heartbreak. The pain of Blake's betrayal had calcified into something almost manageable over 3 years, but occasional encounters still cut deep. It happened on a rainy Thursday at Hamilton's grocery. Olivia, focused on her shopping list, rounded the corner and came face to face with Blake and a visibly pregnant Natalie. "Olivia?" Blake nodded awkwardly. "How you been?" "Fine," she replied, grip tightening on her basket. "Congratulations on the baby." Natalie smiled, hand resting protectively on her stomach. "Thanks. We're hoping for a boy this time." The silence stretched uncomfortably until Blake cleared his throat. "I heard you got that literacy grant for the library." "That's great." "Yes, we did. Excuse me, I need to finish shopping." Later, in her car, Olivia sat with the engine off, breathing deeply as rain drummed against the windshield. What hurt most wasn't seeing them together. It was how quickly she became invisible in their presence, how easily they proceeded with their perfect life while she remained frozen in amber, eternally the woman who wasn't enough. The town had chosen sides immediately after the broken engagement. Blake came from a prominent Bayview family. His father was the former mayor. His mother headed the hospital board. Natalie's parents owned the popular waterfront restaurant. Meanwhile, Olivia's parents had moved to Arizona shortly after she graduated college, leaving her with no local family connections. "I never meant for it to happen," Blake had announced at their rehearsal dinner, 50 guests watching in stunned silence. "But Natalie and we connected in a way that felt right." Within days, the narrative solidified. Blake and Natalie had found true love that couldn't be denied. Olivia, by implication, had been the obstacle to their happiness. Maybe if she weren't so focused on her books all the time, people whispered. Men need attention. She's pretty enough, I suppose, but so serious. No wonder he found someone more lively. These assessments, repeated often enough, began to seep into Olivia's self-perception. Maybe she was too serious. Maybe she did prefer books to people sometimes. Maybe she was fundamentally lacking in some essential quality that made her lovable. Harper remained her one steadfast defender. "They're all hypocrites," she'd declared after the rehearsal dinner disaster. "He cheated, plain and simple. You deserve better." But in Bayview's confined social world, being right didn't protect Olivia from being lonely. The Tuesday evening book club was discussing the night circus when the back door opened, admitting a tall figure Olivia didn't recognize. In a town where everyone knew everyone, newcomers were rare enough to notice. He took a seat in the back row, listening intently as Mrs. Walsh, the retired English teacher, led a discussion about the novel's exploration of fate versus free will. When she asked for his opinion, he spoke thoughtfully. "I believe we create our own magic through the choices we make, even when circumstances seem predetermined," he said, his deep voice carrying a trace of an accent Olivia couldn't place. "The novel suggests that rules and expectations are often just illusions we can rewrite if we're brave enough." His perspective shifted the entire conversation, bringing new depth to the discussion. Olivia found herself watching him, the way he listened intently to others' opinions, the thoughtful pauses before he spoke, how his serious expression transformed completely when he smiled. She noticed other things too, his well-worn but quality clothing, the absence of a wedding ring, how he referenced international travel with casual familiarity. He wasn't just passing through, there was purpose in his presence here. After the meeting concluded, as others gathered their belongings and filed out into the evening, he approached her desk. "I hope you don't mind my joining without advance notice," he said. "I'm new to the area and saw the flyer in the coffee shop." "Everyone's welcome," Olivia replied, noting how he held himself, confident but not imposing. "I'm Olivia Chen, the head librarian." "Theodore," he said, offering his hand. "Most people call me Theo." His handshake was firm, his gaze direct. No pity, no preconceived notions, just genuine interest. The discussion was fascinating, he continued. "You have a gift for guiding conversation without dominating it." "That's kind of you to say, though Mrs. Walsh deserves most of the credit. She taught literature for 40 years. "I noticed something else," he said, glancing around the now empty room. "You speak about books like they're living things." Olivia smiled, surprised by his observation. "Because they are. They breathe life into forgotten worlds." When she mentioned needing to stack chairs before closing, he immediately offered to help. Their conversation flowed naturally from books to travel to philosophy. He asked questions about her work with genuine interest, and for the first time in years, Olivia found herself speaking freely without measuring each word against potential judgment. "What brought you to Bayview?" she asked as they worked together. "It's not exactly a destination spot, especially in the off-season. I needed somewhere quiet to think," he replied. "I've been working intensely for years without a break. A colleague mentioned this town, said it had good coffee and an excellent library." His smile was warm. He was right on both counts. "How long will you stay?" "I'm not sure yet. I rented a cottage near the beach for a month, but my plans are flexible." As they talked, Olivia learned he was taking a sabbatical after years of intense work in technology. He traveled frequently, spoke 4 languages, and read extensively across genres. Yet he remained vague about specifics, deflecting personal questions with gentle redirections. "The library closes at 9, she finally said, glancing at the clock with reluctance. "Would you perhaps join me for coffee sometime?" Theo asked. "I'm still learning my way around town." Something in his direct gaze, appreciative but respectful, made Olivia say yes despite her usual caution. As she locked up that night, her phone buzzed with a text from Harper. "How was book club? Any interesting discussions about circus metaphors and forbidden love?" Harper asked. Actually, there was someone new. A man named Theo. Harper's response was immediate, details immediately required. "There's nothing to tell. He's just passing through town, I think. We're having coffee tomorrow." Olivia Chen. "Is that a smile I hear in your text? It's been too long." Later, lying in bed surrounded by her favorite novels, Olivia questioned her decision. Coffee with a stranger wasn't like her, especially not a male stranger who might have heard whispers about poor Olivia from locals. Yet something about Theo felt different. He listened when she spoke, not just waiting for his turn to talk. He asked questions that showed genuine curiosity about her thoughts. And most startlingly, he seemed to see beyond her carefully constructed librarian persona to something underneath, something she herself had nearly forgotten existed. "You must encounter all types in your profession," he'd said while stacking chairs. "How do you maintain such patience?" The question had caught her off guard. People rarely asked about the emotional aspects of her work. "I believe everyone deserves to be heard," she'd answered honestly. "Even the difficult ones often just need someone to acknowledge them." His expression had softened. "That's quite rare, you know. Most people only pretend to listen." Perhaps that was what compelled her to accept his invitation, the feeling that with Theo, she might actually be heard rather than merely observed and categorized. Still, caution tempered her expectations. One coffee meeting with an interesting stranger didn't erase 3 years of self-protective boundaries. Bayview had taught her that hope was a luxury that often exacted a steep price. Tomorrow she would meet him at Harbor Cafe, have a pleasant conversation, and maintain appropriate distance. He would eventually leave town, and she would continue her carefully constructed life. Safe, predictable, protected. Yet as sleep claimed her, a small rebellious voice whispered that perhaps, just perhaps, there might be more to her story than Bayview had decided. That the final chapters hadn't yet been written. For the first time in 3 years, Olivia fell asleep thinking about possibilities rather than limitations. Coffee with Theo turned into dinner. Dinner evolved into daily walks along the harbor. What began as casual conversation grew into something Olivia hadn't experienced in years. A genuine connection with someone who seemed to value her thoughts, her passions, her essence. "Tell me more about why you became a librarian," Theo asked during their 3rd meeting, his attention completely focused on her answer. "Books were my refuge growing up," Olivia explained. "I was the awkward kid who preferred reading during recess. Libraries felt like sacred spaces where everyone belonged regardless of who they were outside those walls." "You've created that same feeling in your library," he observed. "I've watched how children run to you with their discoveries, how elderly patrons light up when you remember their preferences." His perception startled her. Few people noticed these small interactions that formed the heart of her work. Their conversations ranged widely, from 19th century literature to quantum physics, from childhood memories to philosophical questions about purpose and meaning. With each exchange, Olivia felt layers of protective armor slowly falling away. "You're different when you talk about ideas you care about," Theo told her one evening as they watched the sunset from her small balcony. "Your whole being becomes animated. It's beautiful to witness." No one had ever described her enthusiasm as beautiful before. In Bayview, her passionate nature had always been something to tone down, to apologize for. Yet for all their growing closeness, Theo remained somewhat enigmatic. He revealed he was taking a sabbatical after years of intense work, but remained vague about specifics of his professional life. He mentioned colleagues and projects without concrete details, describing himself simply as someone who worked in technology. His cottage contained few personal items, just books, a laptop, and high-quality clothing. No photos, mementos, or clues about his past. When she asked direct questions about his family or career, he would provide brief answers before gently redirecting the conversation. "My parents passed away when I was in college," he shared during one rare moment of personal disclosure. "It shaped me profoundly, taught me that time is precious and should be spent on what truly matters." More mysterious were his sudden absences. 3 weeks into their relationship, he apologized over dinner. "I need to fly to Chicago tomorrow for a few days," he explained. "Some matters require my attention." "Business matters?" Olivia asked, trying to understand. "Yes." "Unavoidable, unfortunately." His expression revealed genuine regret. "I'll return Thursday evening, if that's acceptable." This pattern repeated. 3 or 4 days of intense connection followed by brief disappearances to New York, Seattle, Boston. Each time he returned with thoughtful gifts, a first edition poetry collection, exotic teas, art from local galleries in the cities he visited. "Aren't you curious about what I do?" he asked after returning from a trip to Los Angeles. "Of course," Olivia admitted. "But everyone in this town has known every detail of my life for years. There's something refreshing about mystery." In truth, she treasured how their relationship existed in a bubble outside Bayview's judgment. Theo knew nothing of poor Olivia, or her humiliation. With him, she was just herself, and somehow that seemed enough. Their differences were striking. Theo approached life with quiet intensity, making decisions swiftly and confidently. Olivia was methodical, considering all angles before committing. Yet they balanced each other in unexpected ways. "You helped me slow down and notice details I would miss," he told her. "And you helped me take chances I would talk myself out of," she replied. Their connection deepened quickly, fueled by intellectual compatibility and undeniable chemistry. When he kissed her for the first time beneath the harbor lighthouse, Olivia felt something long dormant within her awaken, not just desire but possibility. The town noticed their relationship, of course. Small communities miss nothing, especially involving someone with Olivia's history. Whispers followed them through restaurants and shops, speculating about the handsome stranger who had chosen the town's cautionary tale. "It won't last," she overheard Mrs. Patterson tell another woman at the bakery. "Once he really gets to know her, he'll move on." They always do. These comments stung, but Olivia found them easier to dismiss with Theo's steady presence beside her. His obvious admiration created a shield against Bayview's judgment. The confrontation at the farmer's market came 6 weeks into their relationship. They were selecting fresh vegetables when Veronica Taylor approached, Blake's cousin and enthusiastic gossip distributor after the broken engagement. "Olivia, I heard rumors you were seeing someone new," Veronica said, eyes assessing Theo like merchandise at auction. "Quite a change from Blake, isn't he?" "Veronica, this is Theodore," Olivia said, fighting the familiar knot of anxiety. "Charmed," Veronica said insincerely, before turning back to Olivia. "Such a surprise to see you with someone so interesting. After everything with Blake and Natalie expecting their second child now, we all worried you might have given up." Olivia felt Theo stiffen beside her, his posture shifting subtly. "I find," he said with measured calm, "that some people mistake cruelty for honesty. In my experience, those who diminish others are merely projecting their own insecurities." His smile remained pleasant, but his eyes held steel. "Olivia possesses qualities of extraordinary value: intelligence, compassion, integrity. I consider myself fortunate to know her." Veronica blinked, mumbled something about being late, and hurried away. Later, walking along the beach, Theo asked gently, "Would you tell me about Blake? I've heard whispers, but I'd rather know your truth." Olivia hesitated, then shared the full story. The public humiliation, the whispers, how the town had divided into those who pitied her and those who somehow blamed her. "After a while, I started to believe them," she admitted. "That I was too serious, too plain, too insufficient." Theo stopped walking, turning to face her fully. "People fear what they don't understand. They feared your independence, your intelligence, your depth. It was never about you being insufficient. It was about them being intimidated." He pulled her close. "I've met countless people through my work. None have impressed me as much as you do, running that library, changing children's lives, creating community despite how this town has treated you." When he kissed her, Olivia felt the last of her walls beginning to crumble. Their relationship accelerated after the farmer's market incident. Theo began spending nights at her apartment, his few belongings gradually claiming space among her books. They established routines: morning coffee on her balcony, evening walks along the shore, falling asleep discussing ideas that excited them. For the first time since Blake's betrayal, Olivia allowed herself to envision a future with someone else. Perhaps not forever. Theo would eventually return to his real life beyond Bayview, but she decided to embrace the happiness while it lasted. Then came another business trip. The call arrived during their breakfast, causing an immediate shift in Theo's demeanor. "I need to fly to New York tonight," he explained after ending the call. A situation requires my immediate attention. How long this time? Olivia asked, trying to hide her disappointment. 3 days, possibly 4. I'm sorry. His expression revealed genuine regret. This particular matter can't be handled remotely. That evening, she drove him to the regional airport where a sleek private jet awaited, arranged by the company. He explained briefly. This glimpse into his resources raised questions, but Olivia pushed them aside. She had chosen to accept his privacy, to value what they shared without demanding more. I'll miss you, she said simply. I'll return as soon as possible, he promised, kissing her with unusual intensity before boarding. The separation felt different this time, heavier with unspoken possibilities. Olivia found herself checking her phone constantly, rereading his messages, analyzing their relationship. From every angle, what were they building? Where could it lead when he inevitably returned to his real life? True to his word, Theo returned precisely when promised, though with shadows under his eyes suggesting little sleep. He arrived at her apartment with dinner from her favorite restaurant and a small, wrapped package. I've missed you, he said, the simple statement carrying unexpected weight. After dinner, as they walked along the moonlit beach, Theo grew unusually quiet. When he stopped suddenly and turned to her, his expression held a vulnerability she'd never seen before. I've spent my adult life building something I believed in, dedicating every waking hour to its success, he said. I thought that was enough until I met you. Now I realize what I've been missing. He knelt in the sand and opened a small box containing a simple but elegant diamond ring. I know this seems fast, and I know there's much about my life I still need to share with you, but I've never been more certain of anything. Olivia Chen, will you marry me? The logical part of Olivia's mind screamed caution. 3 months wasn't enough time. There were too many unanswered questions. Yet for once, logic felt inadequate against the certainty in her heart. Yes, she whispered, surprising herself. Yes, I will. His smile transformed his entire face as he slipped the ring onto her finger. The diamond caught the moonlight, sending prisms of color across their joined hands. I promise to be worthy of your trust, he said, and I promise that very soon there will be no more secrets between us. Friends, if Olivia's journey resonates with you so far, consider subscribing to our channel. Many of us have felt judged, underestimated, or defined by our past. By joining our community, you'll never miss a story that might help you see your own worth through fresh eyes. Now, as we continue, imagine the ripples through Bayview when news of this sudden engagement spreads. How will a town that defined Olivia by her failure respond to her unexpected happiness? And what secrets still lie beneath Theo's mysterious surface? News of Olivia's engagement spread through Bayview with the speed and force of a coastal storm. By morning, her phone buzzed constantly with messages ranging from genuine congratulations to thinly veiled skepticism. 3 months? That's bold, said Mrs. Walsh when Olivia showed her the ring during the librarian's morning coffee run. The retired teacher studied her face with concern. You seem happy, dear. I just hope he deserves you. At the library, patrons approached her desk with curious glances at her left hand. Some offered warm wishes. Others asked pointed questions about Theo's background, his profession, his intentions, questions Olivia herself couldn't fully answer. I heard he's some kind of tech consultant, she overheard one woman tell another near the periodicals. Flies off to meetings all the time. Seems convenient, doesn't it? After what happened with Blake, you'd think she'd be more careful, came the whispered reply. Olivia focused on cataloging new arrivals, her fingers tracing the unfamiliar weight of the diamond ring. She'd expected judgment, but the intensity still caught her off guard. Bayview had spent 3 years pitying her for being left. Now they criticized her for moving forward. The most difficult call came that evening from her mother in Arizona. Engaged? To someone you've known for 3 months? Her mother's voice rose with each word. Olivia Jean Chen, have you completely lost your mind? I love him, Mom, and he loves me. Blake said he loved you too. Remember how that ended? The comparison stung. Theo isn't Blake. Of course not. Blake we knew. His family, his background, his character. This man appears from nowhere, sweeps you off your feet, and proposes after 12 weeks? What do you really know about him? It was the question Olivia had been avoiding. What did she truly know about Theodore? He worked in technology. He traveled frequently. He read extensively and spoke thoughtfully. He treated her with respect and admiration, but his past remained largely a mystery. His present, beyond their relationship, was a series of vague references to projects and colleagues. His future, their future, was an unwritten page. "I know what matters," she finally answered. "I know who he is with me." Her mother sighed heavily. "Isn't this a bit sudden? You barely know him, Olivia. Remember what happened last time?" "That's exactly why I'm saying yes now," Olivia replied with unexpected conviction. "Last time I spent 2 years planning the perfect wedding while ignoring the imperfect relationship. This time I'm choosing the relationship, not the wedding." The silence stretched between them before her mother spoke again, voice softer. "I just don't want to see you hurt again, sweetheart. I know, Mom, but sometimes protecting yourself from pain means missing out on joy too." Harper proved more supportive when they met for lunch the following day. "Let me see this ring," she demanded immediately, grabbing Olivia's hand. "Wow, simple but quality. Good taste. You don't think I'm being impulsive?" Olivia asked, relieved by her friend's enthusiasm. Harper considered the question seriously. Impulsive for Olivia Chen? Absolutely. Impulsive for a normal human being? Not really. She squeezed Olivia's hand. "I've seen how you are with him. You're yourself again, the real Olivia, not the one who's been walking on eggshells for years. But what if everyone's right? What if I'm making another mistake?" "Here's the thing about mistakes," Harper said, leaning forward. "They're only truly mistakes if you don't learn from them. You learn from Blake to value actions over words, to trust your instincts, to require respect. Has Theo given you any reason to doubt those things?" Olivia shook her head. "No, he's been consistent in how he treats me." "Then maybe this isn't a mistake. Maybe it's growth." Harper raised her glass. "To taking chances on happiness." As they clinked glasses, Olivia felt a surge of gratitude for her friend's unwavering support. In a town determined to define her by her past, Harper had always seen her potential future. Others were less kind. At the grocery store, Olivia overheard 2 women speculating loudly enough for her to hear. "He must be running from something, or maybe he needs a green card. Poor thing is so desperate she'd say yes to anyone." The comments echoed in her mind as she drove home, mingling with her mother's concerns and her own unvoiced questions. Why had Theo chosen Bayview for his sabbatical? Why maintain such privacy about his work? Why propose so quickly? That evening, when he arrived at her apartment, she found herself studying him with new awareness, searching for clues she might have missed, for reassurance against growing doubts. "You're quiet tonight," Theo observed as they prepared dinner together. "Second thoughts?" The directness of his questions startled her. Not second thoughts exactly, more like questions. He set down the knife he'd been using to chop vegetables. "Ask me anything, Olivia. I'll answer as honestly as I can." "Why me?" The question emerged before she could refine it. Of all the people you could have met, why propose to a small-town librarian after 3 months? Theo considered her words carefully. "When I came to Bayview, I was burned out, questioning everything I'd built. I rented that cottage intending to think, not to meet someone." His eyes held hers. "But then there you were, creating this magical space in that underfunded library, speaking about books with such passion, treating everyone with kindness despite how they whispered behind your back." He moved closer, taking her hands. "I've spent 15 years surrounded by people who wanted something from me. Position, resources, connections. You wanted nothing except conversation, companionship, honesty. You valued me for my thoughts, not my circumstances. But there's so much about your life." "I don't know," Olivia pressed. "Your work, your world beyond Bayview." "You're right," he acknowledged. "And I promise to share everything soon. But first I need to know if you trust what we've built enough to take this leap with me." His expression held such vulnerability that Olivia's doubts receded. Whatever secrets he kept, she believed in the connection they'd formed. "I do trust you," she said finally, "but I need you to understand that this town has already written me off once. Marrying you means facing their judgment again if things don't work out." "Then we'll make sure they do," he said simply, pulling her close. As wedding plans took shape, Theo suggested a small private ceremony followed by a move to San Francisco, where he needed to return for work. "We can have a proper celebration later, when you're ready to face my world," he said cryptically. The library board granted Olivia a month's leave of absence, some members clearly expecting she wouldn't return. She applied for positions at several San Francisco libraries, receiving promising responses from 2. "You're really leaving," Harper said as they packed books in Olivia's apartment. "Bayview won't be the same without you." "I might be back to visit," Olivia replied, though they both recognized the unlikelihood. Bayview represented a chapter she was ready to close. The evening before their simple ceremony, Olivia sat with Harper at her apartment, surrounded by half-packed boxes. "Are you sure about this?" Harper asked gently, moving away, "Starting over with someone you're still getting to know?" Olivia looked at the ring on her finger. "I've spent years living cautiously because I was afraid of being hurt again. But what if the greater risk is missing something extraordinary because I was too afraid to try?" Harper hugged her tightly. "Then go be extraordinary, Liv. Just promise you won't forget your small-town friend when you're living your big-city life." "Never," Olivia vowed. "You're the one person in Bayview I'll always want in my life." The ceremony was intimate. Just Olivia, Theo, Harper, and Theo's colleague Gabriel, who flew in specifically for the occasion. They gathered at sunrise on the beach where Theo had proposed, with a local justice of the peace officiating. Olivia wore a simple white dress, her hair adorned with wildflowers Harper had arranged. Theo looked handsome in a charcoal suit, his expression solemn yet joyful as they exchanged vows. "I promise to honor your independence while offering my support," he said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "To respect your wisdom while sharing my own. To build a partnership where both of us can grow without constraint." Olivia's vows, written the night before, came from her heart. "I promise to trust in our connection even when questions arise. To remember that love isn't about perfect knowledge but perfect acceptance. To believe in the person you are, not just the person I see." Gabriel watched the ceremony with an expression Olivia couldn't quite interpret. Respect certainly, but also something like relief. His expensive suit and deferential manner toward Theo raised new questions in her mind, but the joy of the moment overshadowed her curiosity. After the brief reception at Harper's house, Olivia and Theo prepared to leave Bayview. Her modest library of favorite books and personal treasures fit easily into his car, the rest placed in storage until they settled in San Francisco. Standing outside the apartment that had been her sanctuary for 5 years, Olivia felt a curious mixture of liberation and trepidation. She was leaving behind the place where every corner held memories, both painful and precious. "Second thoughts?" Theo asked as they drove away, the coastal town growing smaller in the rearview mirror. "New thoughts," she corrected, "about beginnings." As Bayview disappeared from view, Olivia realized she was leaving behind more than a town. She was leaving poor Olivia, the cautionary tale, the woman defined by abandonment. Ahead lay uncertainty, but also possibility, the chance to define herself anew. What she couldn't know, as they drove toward San Francisco, was how completely her understanding of both Theo and herself would transform in the hours ahead. The man beside her, her husband of 3 hours, carried secrets that would soon reshape everything she believed about their relationship. The road stretched before them, carrying Olivia toward a life she could never have imagined, one where the small-town librarian would face challenges far beyond Bayview's petty judgments, where her resilience would be tested in ways no one could have predicted. "Tell me about San Francisco," she said, watching the coastline unfold beside them. "About where we'll live." Theo's hands tightened slightly on the steering wheel. "It's quite different from Bayview. More diverse, more dynamic. And our home? It has an excellent view," he said with a small smile. "And plenty of room for your books." Something in his tone, a hint of tension beneath the casual response, caught Olivia's attention. But she chose not to press further. Soon enough, she would see for herself the world Theo had been so reluctant to describe. For now, she was content to watch the familiar landscape fade behind them, her hand occasionally touching the simple gold band on her finger, a tangible reminder of the leap she had taken. Whatever waited in San Francisco, she would face it with the same quiet strength that had sustained her through Bayview's judgment. She was no longer defined by what she had lost, but by what she had chosen. The drive to San Francisco took them through coastal highways and rolling hills, finally emerging into the iconic city framed by the Golden Gate Bridge. Instead of heading toward residential neighborhoods as Olivia expected, Theo navigated downtown, weaving through the financial district's gleaming skyscrapers. "I thought we'd be staying in an apartment," Olivia remarked as they pulled into a private underground garage beneath one of the city's most prestigious addresses. "We'll be here temporarily," Theo explained, handing his keys to a uniformed valet who greeted him by name. "Our permanent home still needs some finishing touches." The building's lobby gleamed with marble and glass, more luxury hotel than apartment complex. A security guard nodded respectfully as they approached. "Welcome back, Mr. Voss. Your luggage will be sent up immediately." Olivia glanced at Theo, noting the slight tension in his jaw. "Mr. Voss?" She'd only ever heard him introduced as Theodore or Theo. In the private elevator accessed with a key card, a young woman in a tailored suit entered just as the doors were closing. She did a double take upon seeing Theo. "Mr. Voss, I didn't know you were returning today." She clutched her tablet closer. "About the Singapore proposal." "Tomorrow, Omara," Theo said firmly. "Email my assistant for an appointment." "Of course, sir." "My apologies." Her curious gaze shifted to Olivia before she exited on the 32nd floor. The elevator continued upward in silence, Olivia's mind racing. Singapore proposal? Assistant? The pieces weren't fitting with the Theo she knew, the thoughtful man who helped stack chairs at her library and discussed 19th century literature. When the elevator finally stopped at the 50th floor and opened directly into a stunning apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the entire bay, Olivia stopped short. "Theo, what is this? Who are you?" The penthouse spread before them in minimalist elegance, open-concept living areas, museum-quality art, and technology so seamlessly integrated it seemed almost invisible. Through wall-to-wall windows, San Francisco lay like a glittering map, the bay and bridges framed perfectly as if in a photograph. "Let's sit down," Theo said gently, guiding her to a sleek sofa. "There's something I need to tell you." Olivia sat, her small overnight bag still clutched in her hands, suddenly aware of how out of place her modest dress and cardigan looked against this backdrop of extreme wealth. Theo sat beside her, taking her hands in his. "My full name is Theodore Alexander Voss. I'm the founder and CEO of Horizon Technologies." He paused as understanding dawned in her eyes. "The sabbatical I mentioned was the first break I've taken in 15 years of building the company." The room seemed to tilt as Olivia processed his words. Horizon Technologies was revolutionary. Their advances in sustainable energy and ethical AI frequently made headlines, which meant Theo wasn't just wealthy, he was in another stratosphere entirely. "You're a billionaire," she said, the word feeling absurd on her tongue. "That's not how I define myself," he replied carefully. "But yes, technically. And you never thought to mention this?" Her voice rose slightly. "In 3 months of daily conversations, during a proposal, on our wedding day? I meant to tell you after our 3rd date," he said, running a hand through his hair. "But then I realized something I'd never experienced before. You liked me, just Theo. Not my company, not my resources or connections." His expression was pained. "For the first time in my adult life, I was being valued for who I was, not what I owned." "So you lied." The hurt in her voice was unmistakable. "I omitted. I never invented a false background or claimed poverty. I just didn't correct assumptions." He moved to the window. "I understand if you're angry. If you want an annulment." "I don't want an annulment," Olivia interrupted, surprising herself. "I want honesty. No more omissions." The next hour unfolded like a surreal dream as Theo explained his life, founding Horizon Technologies at 22, building it into a global leader in sustainable technology and ethical AI, accumulating wealth that had made genuine connections nearly impossible. "People approach me with agendas," he explained. "Investors wanting access, entrepreneurs seeking funding, social climbers wanting the connection. Dating became a transaction, women interested in the lifestyle, not the person." "So you hid in Bayview?" Olivia asked, still processing. "I didn't plan to meet anyone there. I rented that cottage to think, to reassess what I'd built and what it had cost me." His expression softened. "Then I saw a flyer for a book club at the local library." Olivia stood, needing physical distance to clear her thoughts. "That first evening, when you helped me stack chairs, was that calculated? A billionaire playing humble?" "No," Theo said firmly. "That was just me, responding to someone who treated books like treasures and people with genuine kindness. The man who fell in love with you is the real me, Olivia. The CEO, the wealth, the company. Those are things I've built, not who I am." She walked to the windows, taking in the spectacular view. "I fell in love with Theo, who helps stack library chairs and debates 19th century literature. I need to know if he's still the same person as Theodore Voss, tech billionaire." "That's what I'm hoping to discover too," he admitted, joining her. "The man I am with you feels more authentic than the one I've been for years." The revelation continued to unfold in layers. Gabriel, who had attended their wedding, was Horizon's chief operating officer. The cottage in Bayview had been purchased, not rented. The business trips were board meetings and investor negotiations Theo couldn't postpone even during his sabbatical. Those trips were genuine company emergencies, he explained. "I reduced my involvement to the absolute minimum, but some matters required my personal attention." "And the private jet?" Olivia asked, remembering their airport goodbye. "Company asset," he admitted. though I prefer commercial flights when security concerns allow it. Each new detail widened the gulf between her understanding and reality. The thoughtful gifts he'd brought from his trips, first editions and rare teas, probably cost more than her annual salary. The simple-looking engagement ring likely cost more than her car. "You said you'd share everything soon," she recalled from their pre-wedding conversation. "Was this what you meant? After I was already legally bound to you?" Theo winced. "That was wrong of me. I convinced myself you needed to see who I was without the trappings first, but I should have given you all the information before you made such a significant commitment." Olivia's emotions swung between anger at his deception and understanding of his reasoning. Had their positions been reversed, if she'd experienced people valuing her only for external factors, might she have craved the authenticity of being loved for herself alone? "I need some time," she said finally. "Some space to process all this. Of course," Theo gestured down a hallway. "There's a guest suite where you can have privacy, or if you prefer a hotel." "I don't need a hotel," Olivia interrupted. "I need honesty going forward, complete honesty." Alone in the guest suite, larger than her entire Bayview apartment, Olivia called Harper. "He's what?" her friend exclaimed after hearing the revelation. "Theodore Voss, CEO of Horizon Technologies. Holy. I just Googled him. Liv, he's worth billions." "Billions? That's not helping," Olivia sighed. Sorry, just processing." Harper paused. "But he's still the same guy, right? The one who defended you against Veronica? Who looked at you like you hung the moon?" "I think so. That's what I'm trying to figure out." "For what it's worth," Harper said gently, "he could have had anyone with that kind of wealth and position. He chose you, the real you, without you even knowing what he could offer." The perspective helped, though it didn't erase the sting of deception. After ending the call, Olivia unpacked her modest belongings. Her well-worn paperbacks looked out of place on custom bookshelves. Her thrift store sweaters hung beside what she suspected were designer suits in the walk-in closet. That night, Olivia lay awake in the guest room, her mind replaying every conversation, every gesture, searching for truth within the omissions. Had she fallen in love with a real person or a carefully crafted persona? Did her feelings change now that Theo had transformed into Theodore Voss, billionaire CEO in her mind? Morning found her in the kitchen, making coffee in an impossibly complex machine. Theo appeared, dressed casually, but looking as though he hadn't slept. "May I join you?" he asked, hesitantly. She nodded, pushing a mug toward him. "I've been thinking all night," he began, "about trust and honesty. You deserved both from the beginning." "Yes, I did," Olivia agreed. "But I've been thinking too, about why you felt you needed to hide who you were." "It wasn't about you," Theo said earnestly. "It was about patterns I've experienced my entire adult life. People seeing the wealth, the position, the potential advantage, never just me." "I understand that," she acknowledged. "But relationships need trust to survive." "You didn't trust me with your truth." "You're right," he admitted. "I told myself I was protecting our connection, but I was really protecting myself from potential disappointment. From the possibility you might change toward me if you knew." The simple admission, vulnerable and honest, softened something in Olivia's heart. "Where do we go from here?" she asked. "That depends entirely on you," Theo replied. "If you want to return to Bayview, I'll arrange it immediately. If you want to stay but need time and space, this apartment has several wings. If you want to try making this marriage work despite my terrible beginning." He hesitated. "I would be grateful for that chance." Olivia considered her options carefully. Return to Bayview and face the town's judgment again? Start over somewhere new, alone? Or move forward with this man she had grown to love despite his significant omission? "If we're going to try," she said finally, "there can be no more secrets. I need to know everything. Your work, your obligations, your world, everything," he agreed immediately. "No more omissions. And I need to find my own place in San Francisco, not as Mrs. Theodore Voss, but as Olivia Chen. I need purpose beyond being your wife." "I wouldn't want anything less for you," Theo said, relief evident in his expression. "Your independence, your passion for your work, those are qualities I admire deeply." Olivia moved to the windows, taking in the city spread below them. "I don't know if I can fit into this world of yours." Theo joined her, careful to maintain a respectful distance. "Perhaps the question isn't whether you can fit into my world, but how we build a new one together, one that honors both our truths." The perspective shift resonated with Olivia. She wasn't being asked to abandon her identity and adopt his, but to create something new alongside him. "I can't promise this will work," she said honestly, "but I'm willing to try. That's all I ask," Theo replied, his expression hopeful for the first time since they'd arrived. As she unpacked her modest belongings in the palatial penthouse, the contrast was jarring. Her well-worn paperbacks looked out of place on custom bookshelves. Her thrift store sweaters hung beside what she suspected were designer suits in the walk-in closet. That night, lying beside Theo in a bed larger than her entire library office, Olivia wondered if she'd made an impulsive mistake or taken the bravest step of her life. Either way, there was no going back to being the mocked librarian of Bayview. For better or worse, she had entered a new chapter, one where she would need all her intelligence and resilience to find her footing in a world beyond anything she had imagined. The following weeks brought a crash course in Theo's world. Olivia discovered that being married to Theodore Voss meant navigating an intricate landscape of wealth, influence, and constant scrutiny that made Bayview's gossip seem quaint by comparison. "Mrs. Voss, would you prefer the blue or white flowers for Thursday's foundation dinner?" asked Elena, the household manager Olivia hadn't realized came with the penthouse. "Please call me Olivia," she replied for the third time that week. "And I'm not sure what dinner you're referring to." Elena's perfectly maintained expression revealed nothing. "The annual Horizon Foundation Gala, madam. 400 guests, including the governor and several international dignitaries." Olivia's stomach tightened. No one had mentioned a gala to her. "I should check with my husband about that." Later, when she asked Theo about the event, he looked genuinely apologetic. "I completely forgot. These functions have been on autopilot for years." He took her hands. "We can skip it if you're uncomfortable." "Skip your company's annual gala? Wouldn't that create problems?" "I'm more concerned about creating problems for you," he said gently. "This transition is already overwhelming." His consideration touched her, but Olivia recognized the importance of the event. "I'll go, but I'll need help understanding what's expected." That help came in the form of Amara Chen, no relation, Theo's executive assistant, the same woman they'd encountered in the elevator. Initially cool and assessing, Amara proved unexpectedly supportive once she recognized Olivia's genuine desire to understand Theo's world rather than simply enjoy its privileges. "Mr. Voss has never brought anyone to corporate functions before," Amara explained as they reviewed the foundation's work providing technology education to underserved communities. "The board members' wives will be watching you closely. Not for mistakes necessarily, but to determine if you're an asset or liability to him." "And which do you think I am?" Olivia asked directly. Amara considered her question with professional detachment. "Initially I thought liability. A small-town librarian with no connections or relevant experience?" She shrugged. "But I've observed how you approach challenges, methodically, intelligently, without pretense. Those qualities are rare in our circles." With Amara's guidance, Olivia learned the practical aspects of her new reality: security protocols, social expectations, management of household staff. She discovered that the penthouse was just one of several properties Theo owned globally, that his schedule was planned months in advance, that his privacy was maintained through rigorous legal agreements and strategic information control. "Is this why you never mentioned your real identity?" she asked one evening. "Because it's so complicated?" "Partly," Theo admitted, "but mostly because I wanted to be seen as a person, not a portfolio." Gabriel, Horizon's chief operating officer, became another unexpected ally. Where Mara helped with practical matters, Gabriel provided context for understanding Theo himself. "He's different since meeting you," Gabriel confided during the foundation gala, where Olivia felt hopelessly out of place despite a designer gown and professional styling. "More balanced, more human." "He was always human," Olivia defended. Gabriel smiled. "Yes, but he'd forgotten that." "You reminded him." The gala itself proved less intimidating than anticipated. Olivia's years of creating community at her underfunded library had honed skills directly applicable to working a room of wealthy donors. She listened attentively, asked thoughtful questions, and connected people with shared interests approaches that felt natural rather than strategic. "You're a natural," Theo whispered as they moved between conversations. "Everyone is charmed." "I'm just treating billionaires the same way I treated the Bayview Book Club," she replied. "People want to be heard, regardless of their bank accounts." By evening's end, Olivia had secured promises from 3 major donors to expand the foundation's rural literacy program, a cause personally meaningful to her. Watching her succeed in his world, Theo looked at her with such pride that Olivia felt, for the first time since arriving in San Francisco, that perhaps she could belong here after all. The press discovered their marriage within days of their arrival in the city. Headlines ranged from curious tech titan's secret wedding to small-town librarian, to cruel billionaire's bizarre choice, what does she bring to the table? Olivia found herself scrutinized in ways that made Bayview's gossip seem gentle by comparison. Financial analysts speculated about prenuptial agreements. Fashion blogs criticized her modest wardrobe. Tech forums debated whether she was intelligent enough for Theodore Voss. Ignore them, Theo advised, but Olivia saw how the negativity affected him, the tightness around his eyes, the late-night pacing. "They're questioning your judgment because of me," she observed one night, finding him working at 3 a.m. "They've always questioned my judgment," he replied, without looking up from his laptop. "When I started Horizon, they said I was too young. When I focused on sustainable technology, they said it wasn't profitable enough. When I implemented ethical AI guidelines, they called it unnecessary idealism." He finally met her eyes. Being right despite their doubts is something of a specialty of mine. His confidence helped, but the constant scrutiny wore on Olivia. She couldn't shop for groceries without photographers appearing. Couldn't meet Harper, who visited from Bayview, without their lunch becoming social media fodder. Couldn't even apply for librarian positions without the story leaking to business publications questioning her motives. Theodore Voss's wife seeks employment, trouble in paradise, or PR move. Read one particularly offensive headline. "This isn't sustainable," Olivia told Theo after a month of such treatment. "I need purpose, work that matters to me. But I can't even interview without it becoming news." Theo considered her words carefully. What if you had resources to create something new, something combining your expertise with greater impact? Like what? You mentioned rural literacy programs at the gala. The foundation already works in technology education. Perhaps there's a way to merge these interests, create digital literacy initiatives for underserved communities? The suggestion sparked something in Olivia, a vision of possibility beyond the constraints of her current situation. "I'd need to learn more about your foundation's current programs, about potential partnerships with existing library systems. Amara can arrange whatever access and information you need," Theo offered. "This would be your project, not mine." For the first time since arriving in San Francisco, Olivia felt a clear path forward, a way to maintain her identity while adapting to her new circumstances. The pressure crescendoed when they attended the annual Innovation Summit, where Theo was keynote speaker and Olivia would make her first official public appearance as his wife. The event drew technology leaders, investors, and media from around the world. "Everyone who matters in tech will be watching," Amara warned during preparation sessions. "This defines your public introduction to the industry." Olivia prepared meticulously, studying Horizon's latest projects, practicing responses to likely questions, working with a stylist to select an outfit that balanced professionalism with authenticity. Yet nothing could have prepared her for the intensity of attention when they arrived. Cameras flashed continuously. Reporters shouted questions about everything from her background to her wardrobe choices. Industry leaders studied her with naked curiosity as Theo guided her through the crowded reception. "Theodore, there you are." A tall woman in an impeccable suit approached, air-kissing Theo's cheeks before turning assessing eyes on Olivia. "And this must be your librarian." "Olivia, this is Margot Winters, CEO of Vertex Systems," Theo introduced them. "Margot, my wife, Olivia Chen Voss." "Charming," Margot said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "What a unique background you bring to our little community. From small-town books to billion-dollar boardrooms. Quite the leap. Different environments, similar principles," Olivia replied evenly. "Both require understanding people's needs and connecting them with resources that enrich their lives." Margot's eyebrows rose slightly. "How philosophical. Though I imagine the resources at your disposal have significantly improved." She turned back to Theo. "The Singapore expansion is proceeding, I hear? Despite the regulatory concerns some of us raised?" "With full compliance and ethical oversight," Theo confirmed, his tone cooling. "As discussed in last month's industry council." "Yes, your famous ethical guidelines," Margot said with a dismissive wave. "So idealistic, so limiting. Some would say responsible," Olivia interjected, recognizing the implied criticism of her husband's business approach. Considering technology's impact on vulnerable populations, Margot's attention snapped back to her, surprise evident. "You've studied ethical AI implementation, have you?" "I've studied human impact," Olivia replied. Technology without ethical consideration becomes exploitation, regardless of profit margins. A tense silence followed before Margot laughed lightly. Well, perhaps there's more to Theodore's choice than meets the eye. We should have lunch sometime, Olivia. I find myself curious. As Margot departed, Theo squeezed Olivia's hand. You handled that perfectly. Was that a compliment or a threat? The lunch invitation? With Margot? Both, invariably. His expression grew serious. She's our biggest competitor and has been trying to undermine our ethical guidelines within the industry. Claims they restrict innovation when they actually prevent exploitation, Olivia finished, recalling their previous discussions about Horizon's approach. Theo nodded. Exactly. She was testing whether you were merely decorative or actually engaged with the work. And did I pass? With distinction, he smiled. Though you've likely made a formidable new observer. The exchange set the tone for the evening, a series of assessments thinly veiled as social niceties. Olivia navigated each with increasing confidence, drawing on her librarian's skill for reading people and situations. By the time Theo took the stage for his keynote address, she had earned cautious respect from many who had arrived expecting to dismiss her. Watching her husband speak passionately about technology's responsibility to serve humanity rather than merely profit from it, Olivia felt a surge of pride. This was the same thoughtful man who had discussed literature in her library, his core values unchanged despite the dramatically different setting. The moment of genuine connection was shattered when she overheard two men nearby. Voss has lost his edge since this marriage, one muttered. All this talk of responsibility and community impact, where's the innovation? The librarian's influence clearly, his companion replied. Board's concerned. Winters is circling, making offers to key Horizon researchers. Rumor has it she's preparing a hostile acquisition attempt. Voss would never sell. Might not be his choice if shareholders think he's gone soft. Olivia's blood chilled. Was her presence actually damaging Theo's professional standing? Were his competitors using his marriage to undermine confidence in his leadership? Before she could process these questions, the evening took another unexpected turn. As they moved toward the exit after Theo's speech, a familiar voice cut through the crowd. Theodore Voss, the man of the hour. Olivia froze, instantly recognizing the speaker before even turning around. Blake Henderson, her former fiancé, stood before them in an expensive suit, hand extended toward Theo. Blake Henderson, Meridian Ventures. He introduced himself with the confident smile Olivia once knew so well. Your keynote was fascinating, though some of us question whether ethical constraints might limit the very innovation you champion. Theo shook his hand briefly. Innovation without ethics merely creates more efficient problems, Mr. Henderson. Perhaps, Blake conceded before his gaze shifted to Olivia, recognition dawning in stages, confusion, shock, calculation. Olivia Chen, from Bayview? Chen Voss now, she corrected, finding her voice despite the surreal quality of the moment. Blake's expression cycled rapidly through disbelief to assessment to opportunistic charm. What an unexpected connection. Theodore, you never mentioned your wife was from my hometown. You know each other? Theo asked, his tone neutral but his posture subtly protective. Old friends, Blake replied smoothly. Very old friends. The deliberate omission of their engagement hung in the air between them. Olivia felt the weight of stares around them, the whispered speculations already beginning. Former fiancés, actually, she clarified, refusing to let Blake control this narrative. Though that was years ago, before you found your true connection with Natalie. Blake's smile tightened. Ancient history. Though I must say, Olivia, you've certainly elevated since Bayview. Quite the transformation. The condescension in his tone ignited something in Olivia. Not the hurt she might have expected, but a calm, clear anger. Not a transformation, Blake. Just a different context for who I've always been. She met his gaze directly. Some people recognize value, others miss. The pointed comment landed precisely as intended. Blake's confident facade cracked momentarily before he recovered with a forced laugh. Well, this has been illuminating. We should catch up properly sometime. I'm sure we have much to discuss. As he walked away, Olivia felt Theo's questioning gaze. That, she said quietly, was the man who left me for my friend weeks before our wedding. The reason Bayview pitied me for 3 years. Understanding dawned in Theo's eyes, followed by concern. Are you all right? Surprisingly, she was. Facing Blake, now so clearly revealed as shallow and opportunistic, had crystallized how far she had come, not just in circumstance but in self-worth. I'm fine, she realized. Actually, I'm better than fine. For the first time since arriving in San Francisco, Olivia felt fully present in her new reality, neither overwhelmed by its challenges nor defined by her past. She had faced both Margot's assessment and Blake's condescension with authentic confidence. The path ahead remained complex, but in that moment, Olivia Chen Voss stood firmly at its threshold, ready to move forward on her own terms. The morning after the Innovation Summit, Olivia woke to an empty bed and the sound of urgent voices from Theo's home office. Wrapping herself in a robe, she followed the noise to find Theo and Gabriel huddled over displays showing plummeting stock charts. 30% drop in pre-market trading, Gabriel was saying. Winner's team leaked the acquisition proposal to key financial outlets, along with claims that my personal distractions have compromised my business judgment, Theo added, rubbing his temples. He looked up as Olivia entered, his expression shifting to concern. "I'm sorry if we woke you. What's happening?" she asked. Gabriel grimaced. Margot Winters is attempting a hostile takeover of Horizon. She's convinced several institutional investors that Theo's ethical approach limits potential profits and that his recent lifestyle changes indicate shifting priorities away from the company's interests. Recent lifestyle changes, Olivia repeated. "You mean me? Your marriage is being weaponized," Gabriel confirmed reluctantly, combined with deliberately leaked information about our Singapore project challenges. Theo crossed to her. "This isn't your fault. Margot has been planning this move for months. She's using our relationship as convenient timing." But Olivia had already connected the dots to the conversation she'd overheard at the summit. Margot was positioning Theo as compromised by his personal life, using their marriage to undermine confidence in his leadership. "What can we do?" she asked. "I need to reassure key investors immediately," Theo said, "which means back-to-back meetings for the foreseeable future." His expression revealed genuine regret, including the gallery opening we plan to attend tonight. "I understand," Olivia assured him. "Your company needs you." What she didn't say was how much she had been looking forward to their evening together, their first planned social outing that aligned with her interests rather than his business obligations. As days passed, the crisis deepened. Theo worked 18-hour days, often sleeping in his office. When he did come to bed, he was distracted, mind clearly still processing strategies and contingencies. Their conversations shortened to practical exchanges about schedules and necessities. Olivia supported him as best she could, managing household matters, deflecting non-essential communications, ensuring he ate occasionally. But the distance between them grew, not from lack of love, but from Theo's total immersion in saving his company. 2 weeks into the crisis, Amara approached Olivia in the penthouse kitchen. "Mrs. Voss, Olivia, I thought you should know. Blake Henderson has requested a meeting with Mr. Voss." Olivia's hand stilled on her coffee mug. Why would Theo meet with Blake? Mr. Henderson represents several significant investors who haven't yet committed to either side in this conflict. His firm has considerable influence over voting shares. The implications were clear. Blake now held power over Theo's company future, and he knew exactly who Olivia was. "Has Theo agreed to the meeting?" "He's considering it," Amara said carefully. "The board is pressuring him to take any path that secures key investors." Later that day, when Olivia raised the subject, Theo confirmed Blake's outreach. "I don't like it, but Meridian Ventures controls access to investors we need. He'll use our connection against you," Olivia warned. "Blake enjoys power plays." "I've handled worse opponents than Blake Henderson," Theo assured her, but the shadows under his eyes betrayed his exhaustion. The situation escalated the following evening when Olivia attended a benefit alone, another engagement Theo had to miss. She was becoming accustomed to representing them both at social functions, growing more confident in navigating these waters. She was discussing digital literacy initiatives with a potential foundation donor when a familiar voice interrupted. "Olivia Chen, or I suppose it's Voss now, isn't it?" Natalie Henderson stood before her, elegantly dressed and visibly pregnant with her second child. Blake materialized beside his wife, hand possessively at her lower back. "Quite the coincidence running into you here," Blake said, though his smirk suggested nothing coincidental about the encounter. "Blake mentioned you'd married Theodore Voss," Natalie continued with manufactured warmth. What an unexpected twist. From small-town librarian to billionaire's wife in just a few months. The donor Olivia had been speaking with watched the exchange with undisguised curiosity. "Life takes interesting turns," Olivia replied neutrally. "Indeed it does," Blake agreed. "Speaking of interesting turns, Olivia, did you know Natalie and I are relocating to San Francisco? My firm's expanding our tech investment division. We'll be neighbors, in a manner of speaking." The declaration felt like a chess move, Blake positioning pieces on a board. "How nice for you both," Olivia managed. "We should have dinner soon," Natalie suggested. "Catch up properly. I'm sure Theodore would enjoy hearing stories about your Bayview days." The implied threat was clear. Blake and Natalie intended to insert themselves into Olivia's new life, perhaps even using her past as leverage in business dealings with Theo. "I'll check our schedule," Olivia replied, knowing how fully booked every moment had become during the crisis. As they walked away, Olivia heard Natalie's stage whisper, "Can you imagine? From being left at the altar to marrying a billionaire. Some people have all the luck." The encounter left Olivia shaken. Blake and Natalie entering her San Francisco life felt like worlds colliding in the worst possible way, her past humiliation intersecting with her present challenges. That night, returning to an empty penthouse, Olivia truly confronted the reality of her situation for the first time. The crisis had exposed fault lines in her new life that could no longer be ignored. Theo was fighting for his company's survival, barely present except physically. Their relationship, so central to both their lives in Bayview, had become secondary to business imperatives. Meanwhile, Blake and Natalie had appeared like harbingers of her past, threatening to undermine her hard-won confidence. Alone in the vast penthouse, Olivia felt suddenly, acutely out of place. What was she doing here, pretending to belong in this world of corporate takeovers and billion-dollar stakes? Her attempts to create meaningful work through the foundation had stalled amid the crisis. Her identity as Theo's wife had consumed all other aspects of who she was. When Theo finally returned after midnight, Olivia was sitting in darkness, looking out at the city lights. "You're still awake," he said, surprise evident in his voice. "Everything okay?" "No," she answered honestly. "Nothing is okay." Her directness caught his attention. He set down his briefcase and joined her by the window. "Talk to me," he said, fully present for the first time in weeks. "I saw Blake and Natalie tonight," she began, explaining the encounter and implied threats. "But that's just a symptom of the larger problem, which is, I don't know where I fit anymore, Theo. In Bayview, we were just us, two people connecting over books and ideas. Here, we're Theodore Voss fighting a corporate war and his small-town wife who's either a liability or a curiosity, depending on who's looking." Theo reached for her hand, but Olivia continued before he could respond. "I left Bayview to start something new with you, but what have we actually built? You work constantly. I attend functions alone. Blake and Natalie are moving here, preparing to use our history as leverage, and I'm just waiting. For what? I don't even know anymore." "For the crisis to pass," Theo said. "Once we've secured the company." "There will be another crisis," Olivia interrupted gently. "Another competitor, another challenge. That's the nature of your world. Our world," he corrected. "But is it, really?" She met his gaze directly. "I've been trying to find my place here for months. I've adapted to the scrutiny, the schedules, the expectations. I've represented you at functions. I've started foundation work I believe in. But when crisis hit, we reverted immediately to your priorities, your needs, your world. Where am I in that equation?" The question hung between them, painful but necessary. "I don't know how to balance this," Theo admitted, vulnerability evident in his exhausted features. "I've never had anyone whose needs I placed above the company's. I don't know how to be both the CEO fighting a takeover and the husband you deserve." His honesty touched her, but didn't resolve the fundamental question. "Maybe I don't belong here," she said quietly. "Maybe we were right for each other in Bayview, but wrong for each other's realities." Alarm crossed Theo's face. "Are you saying you want to leave?" "I'm saying I need to figure out where I belong," Olivia clarified. "Because right now, I feel like I'm failing at being the wife you need and losing myself in the process." "You could never fail me," Theo insisted, taking her hands. "You're the reason I remember what matters beyond balance sheets and market share. Please don't give up on us because I've been consumed by this fight." "It's not about giving up," she said. "It's about finding solid ground. I need space to think clearly." The pain in his eyes was evident, but he nodded. "Whatever you need. Just promise you'll give us a chance before making any final decisions." "I promise," she said, though uncertainty clouded her heart. The following morning, Olivia made a decision. She called Harper. "I need to come back to Bayview," she said when her friend answered. "Just for a few days. To clear my head." "Is everything okay?" Harper asked, concern evident. "No," Olivia admitted. "But I'm hoping it can be." After arranging to stay at Harper's guest room, Olivia left Theo a note explaining her temporary return to Bayview. She needed distance from both the crisis and their increasingly strained relationship to gain perspective. The drive to Bayview felt like traveling backward in time. As the familiar coastal town came into view, Olivia experienced conflicting emotions: nostalgia for the simplicity of her former life, anxiety about facing the community that had defined her by her failure. Harper welcomed her with a tight hug and no immediate questions, one of the many reasons their friendship had endured. "I've made up the guest room," she said. "And I have wine. Lots of wine." That evening, over said wine, Olivia finally explained everything: the takeover attempt, Blake and Natalie's reappearance, her growing sense of displacement. "The worst part," she concluded, "is feeling like I'm becoming exactly what everyone in Bayview predicted. A woman who couldn't handle a relationship with someone exceptional." "That's ridiculous," Harper said firmly. "From what you've described, you've handled everything thrown at you with remarkable grace. The question isn't whether you can handle Theo's world, it's whether that world offers you what you need to thrive." The perspective shift helped clarify Olivia's thoughts. "I love him," she said simply. "That hasn't changed. But love isn't enough if I lose myself completely." "Then don't," Harper advised. "Set terms for your return. Define your non-negotiables. If he truly values you as an equal, he'll meet you halfway." The next morning, needing familiar comfort, Olivia visited the Bayview Public Library. Her replacement, Kevin, welcomed her warmly and offered a tour of recent changes. "The children still ask about you," he said. "Especially Zoe. She's writing her own novel now, inspired by your encouragement." The knowledge that her influence continued even in her absence touched Olivia deeply. As they walked through the stacks, a group of women entered, including Veronica Taylor and Mrs. Patterson, two of the most persistent voices in the gossip that had followed Olivia's broken engagement. Their expressions upon seeing her were comical, shock transforming rapidly to calculation as they processed her presence. "Olivia," Veronica exclaimed with false enthusiasm. "What a surprise. Trouble in paradise already?" The question, deliberately pitched to carry across the quiet library, drew attention from other patrons. 3 months ago, the public scrutiny would have made Olivia shrink into herself. Now, after navigating San Francisco galas and business functions, it barely registered. "No trouble, Veronica," she replied evenly. "Just visiting friends." "We read about the takeover attempt," Mrs. Patterson interjected. "Such pressure your husband must be under. Though I suppose you're accustomed to relationships ending unexpectedly." The casual cruelty, so familiar in Bayview, crystallized something for Olivia. She had spent years allowing these women's opinions to shape her self-perception. Their judgment had helped convince her she was somehow deficient, incomplete, unworthy. "You know," Olivia said, addressing both women directly, "I spent 3 years believing your narrative about me, that I was too serious, too plain, too bookish to be loved properly. I internalized your whispers until they became my own inner voice." The women shifted uncomfortably as other patrons watched the exchange. "Coming back to Bayview has clarified something important," Olivia continued. "The problem was never me. It was allowing others to define my worth based on their limited understanding of who I am." She stepped closer, her voice calm but carrying. "My husband faces a business challenge, yes, but our relationship isn't defined by external pressures. It's built on mutual respect and genuine connection. Concepts I realize may be difficult to recognize when you're so busy judging others to avoid examining your own lives." Veronica flushed red. Mrs. Patterson's mouth opened and closed without producing sound. "Now, if you'll excuse me," Olivia concluded, "I have important decisions to make about my future. Decisions that, I assure you, will not be influenced by your opinions in the slightest." As she walked away, head high and shoulders straight, Olivia felt a profound shift within herself. The confrontation hadn't been about putting these women in their place. It had been about reclaiming her own. Outside the library, she pulled out her phone and called Theo. "I'm ready to talk," she said when he answered. "About us. About what I need. About what we can build together if we're both willing to compromise." "Name the time and place," Theo replied, hope evident in his voice. "Nothing is more important." In that moment, standing outside the library where their story had begun, Olivia realized the clarity she had sought in Bayview had found her after all, not by returning to her past, but by finally, completely, releasing its hold on her future. Olivia returned to San Francisco with newfound clarity. The confrontation in Bayview had shifted something fundamental within her. She could no longer allow others' perceptions to define her worth, whether in a small coastal town or a gleaming metropolitan penthouse. She and Theo met at a quiet cafe overlooking the bay, neutral territory where they could speak as equals rather than within the power dynamics of his world. "I've missed you," he said simply when she arrived. "I've missed you too," she replied, "but the space helped me understand what I need." Over the next 2 hours, they had the most honest conversation of their relationship. Olivia explained her need for purpose beyond being Mrs. Theodore Voss, her fear of disappearing into the shadow of his identity, her determination to create something meaningful using her own skills and passions. "I'm a librarian at heart," she told him. "I believe in connecting people with knowledge that transforms lives. That core hasn't changed, even if my address and last name have." Theo listened with complete attention, the business crisis momentarily set aside. When she finished, he shared his own fears, of failing the company he'd built, of losing her because he couldn't balance his responsibilities, of reverting to the isolated existence he'd lived before meeting her. "When we met, you saw just Theo, not the CEO or the resources," he said. "I need that perspective in my life, but I haven't made space for you to be fully yourself in return." Together they crafted a new understanding. Theo would establish boundaries around work, including 2 evenings weekly and 1 full weekend day dedicated solely to their relationship. Olivia would pursue her vision for literacy outreach with Horizon Foundation's full support, but as her project, not his. Most importantly, they committed to complete honesty about expectations, challenges, and needs, even when difficult. "Partnership," Olivia said, "not absorption." "Equals," Theo agreed, "with different strengths." They sealed this renewed commitment with a kiss that felt like a second beginning, eyes wide open this time to both the challenges and possibilities ahead. The Horizon crisis reached its climax 2 weeks later at a shareholder meeting where Theo would face Margot Winters' takeover attempt directly. The night before, as they prepared for bed, he seemed unusually calm. "Aren't you nervous?" Olivia asked. "Tomorrow determines everything you've built." "Not everything," he replied, taking her hand. "The company matters enormously, but it's not my entire life anymore." He smiled. "Besides, Gabriel and I have been working on a counter-strategy. We just need one final piece to fall into place." The next morning, Olivia attended the shareholder meeting at Theo's request, her first direct involvement in Horizon's business affairs. The company's downtown headquarters buzzed with tension as investors, board members, and executives gathered to determine its future. Margot Winters arrived with an entourage of lawyers and financial analysts, confidence radiating from her perfectly tailored suit to her predatory smile. Blake Henderson entered separately, representing Meridian Ventures' significant voting influence, nodding to Olivia with smug familiarity. As the meeting began, Margot presented her case for new leadership with surgical precision, highlighting Horizon's underperforming stock and untapped profit potential, currently limited by excessive ethical constraints. "Theodore Voss built something remarkable," she acknowledged with practiced sincerity, "but his recent distractions suggest it's time for leadership aligned with shareholder interests rather than personal passion projects." The implied reference to his marriage wasn't lost on anyone. Several investors glanced at Olivia with undisguised curiosity. When Theo took the floor, his approach surprised everyone. Rather than defending his leadership directly, he introduced a comprehensive analysis of Horizon's long-term performance compared to competitors. Ethical technology isn't just morally right, it's commercially smart, he demonstrated, showing how companies that had adopted Horizon's responsible AI guidelines outperformed those prioritizing short-term profits. "Our approach has delivered 47% higher returns over 5 years than the industry average." The data was compelling, but shareholders remained visibly concerned until Theo revealed his final move. "I'd like to introduce our newest initiative," he said, "which directly addresses educational access gaps while opening significant new markets." He gestured toward Olivia. "This vision comes from someone who understands both technology's potential and human needs. My wife has graciously agreed to present it herself." Olivia felt every eye in the room turn toward her. This hadn't been part of their plan. She glanced at Theo, who nodded encouragingly. Taking a deep breath, she approached the podium. The Global Literacy Access Project addresses a critical gap in digital education while creating sustainable revenue through tiered implementation models. Drawing on her library experience and weeks of foundation research, Olivia outlined a comprehensive program combining Horizon's AI technology with customized literacy tools for underserved communities globally. The project would partner with existing educational systems while generating subscription revenue from institutions able to pay. "This isn't charity," she emphasized. "It's strategic investment in future markets while fulfilling our ethical obligation to democratize knowledge." As she concluded her presentation, the room remained silent for several heartbeats before erupting in questions, substantive, engaged questions about implementation, scaling, and revenue projections. Olivia answered each with confidence born from thorough preparation. She had spent weeks developing this concept, consulting experts, and refining financial models. What had begun as a personal passion project had evolved into a viable business initiative. When the shareholders voted 2 hours later, they rejected Margot's takeover bid by a significant margin. Horizon would remain under Theo's leadership, with a mandate to pursue both ethical guidelines and the newly approved literacy initiative. Margot approached them as the room cleared, her smile tight with controlled fury. Clever performance, using your librarian wife to soften your image while preserving your control. Not a performance, Theo corrected. A partnership. Olivia's project addresses actual needs with sustainable solutions, something your quarterly profit focus consistently misses. We'll see how sustainable your approach remains when markets shift, Margot replied, before turning to Olivia. Enjoy your moment, Mrs. Voss. These men will applaud your little literacy project until something shinier captures their attention. Perhaps, Olivia replied evenly, you should consider that underestimating people based on their backgrounds or appearances reveals more about your limitations than theirs. After Margot departed, Blake Henderson approached, ambition evident beneath his congratulatory smile. Impressive save. Theodore Meridian might be interested in discussing potential collaboration on this literacy initiative. Interesting, Theo replied neutrally. Though any discussions would naturally include Olivia as project director, Blake's smile faltered slightly as he turned to his former fiancée. Project director? Moving up quickly in the tech world for someone who used to alphabetize children's books. Actually, Olivia responded, I'm applying the same principles, connecting people with knowledge that transforms lives. The scale has changed, not the purpose. She stepped closer, voice lowered so only Blake could hear. You know, I should thank you. If you hadn't left me for Natalie, I might never have discovered what I'm truly capable of. Your rejection was actually the first step toward finding my real potential. Blake's expression cycled through shock, calculation, and forced recovery. Well, we all end up where we belong eventually. Yes, Olivia agreed, glancing at Theo. We certainly do. The Global Literacy Access Project launched 6 months later, beginning with pilot programs in rural American communities and expanding to international partnerships within its first year. Olivia assembled a dedicated team combining educational experts with technology specialists, creating a true bridge between these often disconnected worlds. The initiative generated substantial positive press for Horizon while providing Olivia with meaningful work aligned with her values. She traveled frequently to implementation sites, sometimes with Theo, sometimes alone, each bringing different strengths to these visits. You connect with people in ways I never could, Theo observed after watching her work with a community in Appalachia. They trust you immediately, because I'm interested in their actual needs, not just our program metrics, she explained. Technology serves people, not the reverse. This principle became their shared philosophy, influencing not just the literacy project but Horizon's broader approach. Theo incorporated Olivia's human-centered perspective into product development, while she embraced the scale and impact technology enabled. Their partnership deepened through this shared vision, complementary rather than competitive. Theo maintained his company leadership while honoring their agreement about dedicated personal time. Olivia built her professional identity while embracing her role as his partner in both public and private spheres. 1 year after the failed takeover attempt, they celebrated the literacy project's successful expansion to 50 global locations with a foundation gala. The event drew education advocates, technology leaders, and investors curious about this unique initiative bridging profit and purpose. I still can't believe what you've accomplished in 12 months, Harper told Olivia as they surveyed the crowded ballroom. Harper had joined the project as community outreach coordinator, bringing her natural ability to connect with people across backgrounds. Sometimes I can't either, Olivia admitted. From small-town librarian to directing a global education initiative, it's not a path I ever imagined. But exactly the path you were meant for, Theo said, joining them. Your vision is changing thousands of lives already. As the evening progressed, Olivia moved confidently through conversations with donors, educators, and technology partners. This world that had once felt so foreign now seemed navigable, not because she had changed fundamentally, but because she had stopped trying to become someone else to fit within it. The night's most significant moment came when a major education foundation announced a substantial grant to expand the literacy project's reach. As Olivia accepted the ceremonial check, she caught sight of Natalie and Blake at a distant table, their expressions a study in conflicted emotions. Later, as the event wound down, Natalie approached her alone. "Congratulations," she said, the word holding genuine admiration despite their history. "What you've built here is remarkable." "Thank you," Olivia replied, surprised by the sincerity in her former friend's voice. "I owe you an apology," Natalie continued. "For everything with Blake, yes, but more for how I treated you afterward. The judgment, the gossip." She glanced toward Blake, deep in conversation across the room. "I convinced myself you were somehow less than me to justify what we did. I was wrong." The admission, unexpected and unasked for, closed a chapter Olivia hadn't realized remained partially open. "We all made choices," she replied. "I'm at peace with where mine have led me." Natalie nodded, understanding the boundary Olivia was establishing. Not forgiveness exactly, but release from the weight of their shared past. Later that night, as Olivia and Theo walked along the rooftop garden of their penthouse, the city lights created a private galaxy around them. "When I walked into your library that first evening," Theo said, "I was looking for silence and solitude. Instead, I found you, passionate about books, dedicated to your community despite how they treated you, completely unimpressed by the few hints of wealth I couldn't hide." "I was looking for safety," Olivia admitted, "a predictable life after public humiliation. Instead, I found someone who saw capabilities in me I'd forgotten existed." Theo took her hands, his expression serious. "This past year hasn't been easy. My work still demands too much sometimes. Your projects take you away for weeks. We're still learning to balance everything." "Balance isn't about perfect equilibrium," Olivia replied. "It's about adjusting constantly, together." "Together," he agreed. "The best decision I ever made was walking into that book club and helping stack chairs afterward." As they embraced beneath the starlit sky, Olivia reflected on their journey, from a small coastal library to a global initiative, from cautious strangers to partners in the truest sense. Their path had been neither straightforward nor easy, but the challenges had forged something stronger than either could have built alone. Friends, if you've connected with Olivia's journey from underestimated librarian to confident changemaker, take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Life often places us in situations where others define our worth based on limited understanding of who we truly are. By joining our community, you'll receive stories that remind you of your inherent value beyond others' perceptions. The path to claiming your authentic self isn't always smooth, but as Olivia discovered, the journey reveals strengths you might never have recognized otherwise. Click subscribe to continue exploring life's profound lessons through stories that entertain, while unveiling deeper truths about the human experience. 3 years after their wedding, Olivia and Theo stood together on the grounds of what had once been the Bayview Public Library. The modest building had been transformed into the flagship center for the Global Literacy Access Project, its space doubled and equipped with state-of-the-art technology, while maintaining the warm, accessible atmosphere Olivia had always created in her libraries. "Remember when you used to shelve books here until midnight?" Theo asked, his hand resting lightly on her back as they watched families stream in for the grand opening. "And you would, coincidentally, return books during my late shifts," Olivia smiled. "Not exactly subtle in retrospect. I was captivated," he admitted, "by someone who cared so deeply about connecting people with knowledge, regardless of what others thought of her." The center represented everything their partnership had become. Theo's resources and business acumen combined with Olivia's vision and understanding of human needs. Neither could have created it alone, yet together, they had built something transformative. Mayor Patterson, formerly Mrs. Patterson of the library board and town gossip circle, approached with an enthusiastic smile. "Mrs. Voss, Mr. Voss, this center is exactly what our community needed. Such vision." The same woman who had once dismissed Olivia as that poor librarian now sought photo opportunities in connection. The irony wasn't lost on either of them. "Thank you, Mayor," Olivia replied graciously. "Though the vision came from watching this community's needs go unmet for years, sometimes we need to look beyond surface appearances to recognize value." As the mayor moved on to greet other guests, Theo squeezed Olivia's hand. "Still teaching lessons, even on opening day?" "Some lessons bear repeating," she replied with a small smile. Later, addressing the gathered community, Olivia stood confidently at the podium. "This center exists because two people from different worlds recognize something genuine in each other, beyond external judgments or expectations. That recognition, seeing someone for who they truly are, changed both our lives immeasurably." She gestured to the families filling the space. "Every person who enters these doors brings unique value that has nothing to do with background, resources, or social position. Our worth isn't determined by others' perceptions or by circumstances beyond our control, but by the authenticity with which we live our truth. Glancing at Theo, she continued, 3 years ago, I believed my story had already been written by this town's judgment. I had accepted limitations others placed upon me. Meeting someone who saw beyond those artificial boundaries reminded me that we always have the power to redefine ourselves, to grow beyond others' expectations. Her gaze returned to the audience. This center stands as a reminder that transformation begins with recognition, seeing ourselves and others clearly, beyond convenient labels or comfortable assumptions. The crowd's applause affirmed her message, many nodding in recognition of their own experiences with judgment and redefinition. As the formal ceremony concluded and visitors explored the new facility, Olivia and Theo found a quiet moment together beside the reading garden that had been her favorite spot in the old library. From stacking chairs to building global initiatives, Theo reflected. Quite a journey. With many chapters yet to write, Olivia added, resting her head against his shoulder. Their story had evolved far beyond its unlikely beginning, yet remained rooted in the simple truth that had drawn them together, the recognition of something genuine beneath external appearances. Through challenges personal and professional, that foundation had proven unshakable. Friends, Olivia and Theo's journey reminds us that true connection happens when we look beyond surface judgments to recognize authentic value in ourselves and others. In a world quick to assign worth based on appearance, status, or circumstance, the courage to see people as they truly are becomes revolutionary. Your own story may not involve billion-dollar companies or dramatic revelations, but it certainly includes moments where others' perceptions threaten to define your reality. Remember that you alone determine your worth, regardless of external validation or criticism. If this story resonated with you, we invite you to join our community by subscribing and sharing your thoughts below. Each comment creates connection between fellow travelers on this human journey. What judgment have you overcome? What unexpected recognition changed your path? By engaging with these stories together, we remind each other that our value transcends others' limited understanding, a truth Olivia discovered, and that waits for each of us to claim in our own lives.